It's a lovely problem to have that the apprenticeship program has taken off and it is so popular. And the fact that there's so many young people, so oversubscribed, and only 11% of employers in Northern Ireland offer apprenticeships. It's just, to me, that's madness. There's a whole talent stream that you're not tapping into, but hey, that's just my opinion. It is really, really tough out there. I suppose it's like any competition. How do you differentiate? How do you be better than the person next to you? What are you putting out there? If you think about it from that perspective, and that goes back to about the whole life versus work experience.
Welcome to Workplus, the podcast that shines a light on the people doing good work across Northern Ireland. I'm your host, Richard Kirk, founder of Workplus. I've spent years working with employers, schools, colleges and universities, helping young people and career changers to make better informed career decisions. Each week, I sit down with real people doing real jobs to explore how they got there, what they've learned, and why their work matters. If you're a parent, teacher, carer, or just curious about what good work looks like today, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Joanne, I'm so pleased that you've joined us today in the podcast studio. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks for the invite, I think. Yeah. I'll tell you at the end of it whether I really do thank you for that invite.
Joanne, we first met about 10 years ago now, actually. But one thing I've never asked you, and this is going to be my first question today, is what did you do for work experience when you were at school?
Is that so long ago? Let me have a think about it. No, I do remember. So I was really passionate about trying to find a job, right? I wanted to get a job. I wanted a job where I could earn money. So I was a wee bit clever with my work experience choices. I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career, but I knew that I wanted to start earning as quickly as possible. So I actually got work experience in a local coffee shop. Okay. Because I knew it was 5 days that I could prove that I would be a good worker and that I could get in there and start to get a Saturday job, a permanent little Saturday job, and start to earn money, which is exactly what happened. What I didn't realise, so again, only interested at the time, but that work experience that I actually got through that Saturday job was fantastic. You know, going in and, having people telling you what to do that weren't your parents or your guardians, peeling the potatoes, getting the coleslaw ready, serving the customers, dealing with customer complaints. Sure. Wow. So great to work in hospitality and get that experience. But I guess the other thing then was mum and dad were saying, well, what do you really want to do? I hadn't a clue. But I thought I might want to work in media. And here we are.
Hey, here we are.
So I did get 2 days, 2 days work experience with the local radio station, with the news editor. And what that did was tell me, no, I definitely did not want to be a journalist or work in media. And there's a really good learning experience. That's exactly what work experience is for. It's about sometimes ruling out things as well as ruling in things.
Oh, good. And so what was you mentioned some of the responsibilities that you had there, peeling potatoes. What are those skills that work experience can give you that maybe you can't get in a classroom? What are some of those things? Absolutely.
Well, the very first thing is other adults that aren't your teachers, that aren't your guardians, your parents, giving you instructions and that you are following those instructions and that you're getting feedback. That feedback comes in lots of different ways and forms. Yeah. But that's really important because that's what working life is like. No matter where you start, you're going to have a line manager, you're going to have supervisors, you're going to have people telling you what to do. You're going to have to be able to listen, try to understand and follow out those actions and then get feedback on whether or not you've done that well enough. So that's just from your line manager, which is great. The customer, honestly, get the experience of dealing with customers, good, bad and indifferent. That's second to none. Being able to offer service to someone and having positive feedback, it really gives you the confidence that, okay, I'm doing this right. I can continue to do that. So those little small things which seem meaningless at the time, maybe a chudgery at the time, actually are preparing you to go in and either talk about that through an interview or get you a bit more work ready when it comes to it, that you go, okay, I kind of know how this might go. It's going to be slightly different once you choose your career and you start on your career pathway, but it's certainly pointing you in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And those skills that you're learning in that place, in that coffee shop, you can start to apply those elsewhere. Whenever we were reached out to you and said, look, we'd love to have a conversation with you. And we were initially thinking, how do we help young people get work ready? But you pushed back a little on that and said, no, actually, it's more life ready. And you've mentioned life earlier in what you've said. Tell us about why you push back on that.
I do have this kind of reframing in my head. I suppose working in the people function for such a long time, I think, and also being a mum, when you've got kids as well, and you're starting to think about them and their career and their choices. Schools are really good, and our schools here are amazing at getting our young people the educational qualifications that's within their grasp. So that, to me, that's a given, that they do that really well. That's only one part of it. It's about, I think, just generally a society, because the world is so hard and difficult nowadays, and there's so much going on, bringing young people through so that they become responsible, confident adults that can contribute and feel comfortable in their own skill is, to me, what I really mean about life ready, or, having those life skills and rather than just work ready. It also is giving them confidence to come in and interview well, to bring through the experiences. Yes, they've got their academic qualifications, but what about their extracurricular? What are the things that they're doing outside of the traditional classroom that they can then bring to bear through that interview process, or just make them feel a bit more confident on day one, week one, month one, year one? And as an employer, when I look back on it now, those are the candidates that come through more strongly at those different stages and who seem to fare a little bit better or more quickly. I'm not saying that those people who don't have that same sort of life experience don't get there, but it can be a bit more difficult. And when there are lots of really talented young people out there, which there are, of course, differentiating yourself because you feel comfortable and confident with who you are, it just stands out. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not sure if I answered the question there, but I'm hoping it's explaining a little bit between the differences between that kind of work and life.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. You mentioned the phrase people function earlier today, so let's just have a little bit of clear up. What does that actually mean? Like, what is the type of job that you've been doing in the companies that you've been working in, just to help listeners to understand that a bit more?
I started life out helping to train people in a retail outlet. So teaching people how to use the till, how to serve customers, how to replenish the shelves. And that was the first time that it was never called human resources then. It was called the personnel department. And I really didn't know what that meant. But that's where my career started there. And I guess then human resources became the trendy word, the word that we now know today. However, for me, I've always thought it much more than just human resources. It's about people at every level. It's, yes, there's the basic transactional things around recruiting or employee relations. But if you really want your people to thrive at work, the people function is about everything. It's about how engaged they are. Have they got the right skills in the right place at the right time? It's about resource management. It's about management and leadership. It's about, do we have the right organizational structure to deliver what the company's trying to deliver and how it makes money? So my role has changed over the years. As I say, I started off as in the training area, but I have done all different roles within, I suppose, the human resource sphere. But for me, and when people ask me, what do? I help support businesses with their people. I work in the people function. I help and support people. I help and support senior leaders.
Okay. And that's been in different environments that you've done, different sectors. But
yes.
What are some of the attributes and skills that you've developed in that time that makes well, you good at your job, Don't be.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. I'm not sure everybody would say that, but thank you. I'll take that one. So I guess it changes and ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Because what we start off doing doesn't always dictate where we're going to end up. And sometimes we change up through the gears ourselves because maybe we're in a bit of a rut and we need to change that. Or sometimes opportunities present themselves. Very early on, because I started in a training role, the very first thing that you were doing was communicating. You were communicating to people at a particular level. So it literally was people on the till and, as I say, replenishing shelves. So young people coming in, people still at school, perhaps people who didn't have, education. It was, at those days, you didn't even need your 5 GCSEs, including maths and English. So people with English wasn't their first language. So you were learning to communicate in a way that got your message across and delivered the right level of service. But as that started to grow and then started to grow in confidence, then you were starting to influence. Then you were starting to build up the core skills that make up a good human resource person. So you were starting to look at employee relations and you were thinking about, well, how does my communications help me ask the right questions to draw out the information that I need for the organisation to make the right decision in what we were facing, whether that be disciplinaries or investigations or all of the other things. So you start then over the years to build up practice skills in your imaginary toolkit. And sometimes you don't even know you're doing that until you're faced with a certain problem or challenge. And then you think, okay, so this is something that I kind of think might work in this situation. And you draw it and think, okay, so this is how I'm going to engage in that conversation. These are the questions. And all of a sudden you realize I'm actually coaching here. Or I'm using my techniques to try to resolve serious problems.
Yeah.
And then you're moving that on. You're thinking, okay, I'm starting to gain experience here. I'm starting to gain traction. I'm starting to move things in a positive way. So then you start expanding again. And then you move into, coaching and then leadership and management. And then you start into executive coaching. So you can see how it layers up. Now, alongside that runs your academic qualifications. And sometimes you can do that, through apprenticeships, through doing your degree in normal ways. Or like me, I don't have a degree. I have done that. I've got different other qualifications, coaching qualifications, etc. But you choose what is right for you in order to deliver the skills that you need for the job that you want to do. I can remember sitting as the, what was it called then? I think it was the Store Personnel and Development Officer.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Well, really old title. But then looking across at a colleague who was in a regional role and thought, so that was now more into strategic thinking and starting to think about the direction of the organisation. And I think, I want to do that role.
Yeah.
I want to do that role. What do I need to do to get there? Who do I need to speak to? How, can I shadow? Can I learn it? And then, moving on from there.
Yeah. That's, so you're very thoughtful about those things. But yet there was a little bit of what you're saying there. I was getting a sense of some of that stuff's unplanned as well. And it's how you react in that moment. Like for our young people, they're in a classroom environment, they're there from 9 to 3 every day, etc. But how do you kind of get that balance between stuff that you're planning because you know you want to do it, and then most people don't really know what they want to do? Like, how would you advise a 16-year-old right now to make those decisions?
Yeah. The first thing is don't panic. None of us know really. Now that's not true. Most of us don't know what we want to do. We really don't. We don't know what we don't know. So that's the first thing. Yes, it might be different if you have family members or you have friends of friends and you can see something and you think, okay, I can see that my friend's dad has his own engineering company and from what I've seen there, going to their house, that I think that might be something that I'd like to do. I might go and ask, well, how do I do that? I don't think that for most of us, we try to make the choices around what are we passionate about? What are the subjects in school that I enjoy that come easy to me or easier to me, or that I sit in the top half of that class? You know, if I look at my results, so I know that I'm going to enjoy it. And I think start off with that and then look at, well, if I enjoy that subject, I'm good at it or I'm okay at it, where does that take me careers-wise? Ask lots of questions. Ask questions of other adults. Explore the options and then go for it. Don't overthink it. Really don't overthink it. So what? So you choose a pathway, whether that be apprenticeship, whether that be straight into employment if you can find the job that suits you, whether that's a degree pathway. It doesn't matter if you go down that pathway and somewhere along it you decide, you know what, this isn't the right fit for me. That's okay. But go into it passionately, try your level best. Something brought you there in the first place. If you need to change track, that's okay.
Yep.
Ask for help. Ask the trusted people around you. Go and research it. And then do what you need to do to change. I started off 30 odd years ago. I didn't think in my wildest dreams. I went to London to work for the summer. 10 years later, I came back to Northern Ireland.
Okay.
My mum and dad only thought I was going for the summer holidays. Can you imagine? In the middle of my A-levels.
You did tell them? No. Just told them when you were at the end of the summer?
At the end of the summer, I'm not coming home, guys. And all I knew was that I wanted to work. But once you got on and I was given that opportunity, then different pathways opened up. You don't have to choose them all. You mightn't even choose the right one. That's okay. How many of us have retrained at the age of 30, 40, 50? So, you know, you have your whole life ahead of you. Make the right choices that suit you today based on what you know and what you're passionate about.
You know, we've both got teenage sons, and it is just trying to help them see the things that they're more able at than other things. And actually, it's great to say goodbye to some of those subjects. We're all glad to say goodbye to them because homework was becoming more and more taxing on us as well. But you've got that sense of mastering a craft, and you don't need to be top of the class, but you can just go deep on something and then you enjoy it even more, you know, because it's fitting with what you need. So I mentioned earlier, we got connected 10 years ago. And it was around a concept of creating an apprenticeship culture within the organisation that you worked with at the time, but also in the wider industry. Tell us about why you got involved in that in the first place.
Yeah. Gosh, what was 10 years ago?
I know.
It's scary when you say that, isn't it? Because it only feels like yesterday. Yeah. So I worked for a construction company here in Northern Ireland that I absolutely loved and really enjoy working for until very recently. When I went out, imagine, there you go, talking about reinventing yourself. So here I am at the ripe old age of, and I have stepped away from the corporate world to be an independent consultant. So loving that too, that sideway move. But absolutely, so working for a construction company, and very traditionally, you might have experienced hires. So somebody that's already worked for another construction company or has the prerequisite skills to do a job and you were hiring them. The other entry point into the organisation is graduates. And, you know, I think that they would be happy for me to say it wasn't just graduates, but it would have been graduates that came from either a farming background who are at a Russell Group university or equivalent and who were getting a first or 2-1 in their degree. And it was fine. But if those are what's defining how we're bringing talent into the organisation, then we are limiting our options. And times were changing and we still had retention issues. We were still losing graduates. We were losing young, talented people from the organisation. Turnover wasn't where we wanted it to be. And it was like, what can we do in this space? So we knew that apprenticeships were out there and we could see the level 3 apprenticeships. And I had come across apprenticeships in other organisations, but more at a craft level, you know, at level 2, at level 3. And in construction, you need to have that third level education to be an engineer, to move on to chartership, to be able to bid for the type of work that we wanted, and the same from construction managers, etc. But where I find it really difficult was that when you're going as one employer and trying to engage with multiple colleges, multiple universities to get something off the ground, it was very difficult, time consuming, costly in terms of your time. And that's where I suppose we came across, our paths crossed, you at the time in the Institute of Civil Engineering, and then some amazing colleagues in other businesses. So there's about 4 or 5 of us, wasn't there, really?
Yeah.
Well, there was a wider group, but there was a little nucleus of about 4 or 5 of us who, again, that word, passionate, wanted to bring about change, didn't really know how to do it, didn't know how we were going to engage. And I think having that joint voice coming together, we were then able to lobby the colleges and universities. We were able to kind of explain what the need was, why we thought there was a need, and how could we get that going. So we really got momentum then, didn't we?
Yeah. And you mentioned that the other alternatives. So by creating that apprenticeship pathway into the organisation, like what did that open up in many ways, rather than saying that the bar needs to be a 2-1 or a first class honours degree? I'm coming from a certain background over the farming background, you know. They know the value of hard work, the ambient outdoors. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
It's windy out there and you're building those bridges.
Exactly. You know. So what did that apprenticeship pathway do to the organisation? And what would you, what did you say happened in the organisation by opening up that new door, essentially?
Yeah. Well, look, it wasn't plain sailing. You want to bring apprentices in, so let me get our head around it. We're going to let them work. We'll let them work for 4 days, and then we're letting them go into university or college. So what, 1 day a week? What they're going to be, and they're still getting paid as full-time employees. So, you know, I'm being facetious, but it genuinely was that. It was difficult to get buy-in in those first couple of years. But what it really did very, very quickly, and, you know, maybe we were lucky, maybe it was a bit by design, and it certainly was the individuals that we were really lucky to bring into our organisation, was we found really good young people who were, and again, this word, passionate about starting work in a different way, you know, in a way that their mates weren't doing. So it wasn't about working in an off license or working in a retailer while doing a mount degree. It was about studying as well as getting that experience with an employer. So we had 3 all lads actually in the first year who came through, and they really, I suppose, they really shone the light on what this could be. And very quickly there was a momentum around, and once you've got the right people and you give them the right start. So obviously the people team, we made sure the induction was right. We made sure that we were putting them in really good teams where the line manager was a people focused person. So we give them the right type of support early on. They just flourished. They just flourished. And it meant that those line managers of those individuals started to influence their colleagues. And I guess the very first measurement that I had that, gosh, this is going to work, I really think this is going to work, was when we wanted to rotate them after 9 months. So you've had 9 months working with a particular team. Now's the opportunity to come and work in another part of the business and learn more about that. So you get a more rounded experience. You know, this was the people team again, setting the structure and thinking we knew it all in our little ivory tower. And of course, we went down to, I can remember asking Dermot was his name, and he was working up on the A6. I'm not sure, I'm sure he won't mind telling you. And his line manager said, no, you can't take him. What do you mean I can't take him? It's time to rotate. Remember, we talked about the plan. He said, no, you can't take him. So, oh, right. Why is that? Because he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic. He's learned so much. He's in control of this. And they named all the activities that, you know, Dermot was involved in. And I went back. Well, I didn't know what to say. So I went back to the office and inside just did a little dance going, yes. So and that's in reality, it opened up just a completely different way of bringing that talent stream into the organization and a different way of doing things. Once it cottoned on, we were just snowballing, and we did have to tighten up on structure and what do we do with rotation and how do we give them the best experience. So that all came with time and feedback and all those lovely things.
Those are great problems to have, though, aren't they? That you've got a site manager pricing, now you have the whole prizes grasped from that apprentice.
Yeah. And it was really, when people say, what about resource planning? So the next year when it was coming around to thinking about graduates and apprentices and placements as well, and we were thinking, well, what are the numbers? How many projects do we have? How many, opportunities do we want to offer? And it was so funny because normally it was like hen's teeth for someone to put pen to paper and say, these are the numbers. But immediately it was like, can we get some more of those apprentices? Now I want them. So they just wanted to clone them. And of course, we're human beings, so they don't all work out to be every one of them wonderful. But like 95% are pretty good, So that was again another measurement of how good this pathway was. So it just completely changed the landscape for us.
And in those last 10 years, from that handful, it's the culture has changed so much, and it's down to employers like the ones that you've worked for and many others that are creating those opportunities. But what we found is that it's now something that's really oversubscribed. So the culture has changed, not just on the demand side with the employers, but it's also changed on the supply side with young people, career changers, parents, schools, etc. So when you mention some of the attributes of those early apprentices and even ones that you've seen since, what are the things that you'd be saying to teachers, parents, young people whenever they're considering an apprenticeship? What are the things that really stand out for you as an employer whenever they make that application or go for an interview? Or whatever?
Isn't it? So it's a lovely problem to have that the apprenticeship program has taken off and it is so popular. And the fact that there's so many young people looking, it's so oversubscribed, and only 11% of employers in Northern Ireland offer apprenticeships. It's just, to me, that's madness. There's a whole talent stream that you're not tapping into, but hey, that's just my opinion. So it is really, really tough out there. And I suppose it's like any competition. How do you differentiate? How do you be better than the person next to you? What are you putting out there? So if you think about it from that perspective, and that goes back to, earlier in our conversation about the whole life versus work experience. When I'm sitting across the table and I'm interviewing the person, the apprentice coming through the door, what's memorable for me? It isn't I can look down and see the grades. And again, our education system is so good in Northern Ireland that if those are the grades, I know what I can expect academically from that individual. So what? That's only getting your foot in the door. So what is bringing you to life? Where is your passion? So all of those things, extracurricular at school, what do we mean by that? And yes, okay, the rugby, the cricket, the soccer, brilliant, no problem. But it's the Duke of Edinburgh, do you know what I love to see? Mentoring other students, mentoring the ones, so you're in year 12, 13, 14, whatever. Are you mentoring further down the school? Are you involved in the sustainability working group? Are you involved in whatever, all of those things where you can come to me at interview and when I say, so tell me something that you're passionate about, something that you care deeply about, something that you're doing that isn't about your education, and their eyes light up and they start to talk from the heart about something that they have done. Fantastic. Outside of school, think about all those clubs, societies. It doesn't matter whether it's crocheting. Do you know what I mean? Windsurfing, playing football or whatever it is. Talk about it passionately, because when you talk about anything that you are fond of or you care about or matters to you, then your whole body language changes. Your eyes light up. You're able to show us a little bit about who you are. And that's what differentiates you from everybody else and makes you stand out. So that's really important. For parents, be supportive of those things, but also practice the interview. It's, what's that good old word in Northern Ireland? It's scundering. Oh no. But actually, and if you can't do that as parents and you're a young person in your house, I know my son would hate me if I said to him, right, come on, we're going to practice interview. Well, get their auntie or their big, sister, brother, whoever it is, get another person to put them through their paces. Hello, Richard. Nice to meet you today. Come on in and sit down. Do you remember Catherine and Stacey? When Stacey had to go in, her mummy and dad, was it Bryn interviewing her?
Yeah.
Do that in your house. Seriously, it will make all the difference and it'll just take away all of that embarrassment on the day. So be able to talk passionately about your extracurricular or whatever it is you're doing and come in prepared. Yeah. Come in prepared.
Great. It's funny you should say crocheting. I was chatting to a software engineering apprentice and she said that her love for crocheting was where her love for software started.
Wow.
Because it is all about patterns and code and lines. And
see, I wouldn't have thought about that.
I know. Exactly. And I was like, but of course that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's a really lovely starting point for her to start to, and I come back to that craft. We think of craft sometimes as being like bits you stick together, physical stuff, but a craft is something which is a knowledge thing as well. And it was lovely to hear her talk about how she started that journey in the software. Anyway, just an aside point.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Are there any, so you've mentioned about some of the positive things there. Are there any like Room 101? Is that still even a thing anymore?
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Are there things that we should be like banishing in a little box here that your pet hates? You don't want to see that from an applicant?
Let me have a think. Not so much that I don't want to see, but here's a bugbear. Okay.
That's probably better.
Let me say one thing that I suppose maybe turns me off or makes me less sympathetic to what I'm hearing, seeing, feeling from across the table is not being prepared. Now, a minute ago I was talking about the preparedness, about getting them ready for interview and coming in and being able to talk and demonstrate that they really should be taken seriously and please think about me for this job because here's why. But not being prepared and have done your research. Okay, so if you want to come in and be a civil engineer, so I worked in construction, and you want to be a civil engineer, construction manager in the future, or a quantity surveyor, or whatever it is, then I expect at the very least that you have researched that. What does a civil engineer do? It's really easy. You guys are so good out there for Googling and AI and all. So do your research and be able to come in and tell me why you want to do the role that I am advertising for, that our organisation is advertising for. The other thing is research the company, whatever the company is. And then be able to say, I've seen this project that you delivered, or my dad told me, or my mom told me that you built that. Do you still work on those size projects? Is that the type of thing that I would be doing? So research the company, demonstrate that you are interested and that you want to be part of this company. So it's not about asking smart questions. It's about feeling comfortable again in your own skin and being able to have that conversation with your interviewer. Again, that's what will set you apart. So don't come in with which happens quite a lot more than you think. Not all of them tell you this. Some of them do. My mum and dad told me that I needed to apply. And I get that. Of course, I am a mum. Of course, I am that pushy mum that says, come on, because we want our kids to find their place in life and to, stand on their own 2 feet. And we do have to encourage them. But do your research. Come in prepared to think about the role that you want to apply for. Think about the organisation and have a couple of good questions up your sleeve to ask.
Yeah. I know we've been at quite a few careers fairs this week, and it's amazing the number of parents that dominate that conversation. And I have started to be a bit more intentional and actually have been probably a little bit bullish and just saying, I'm really sorry, but I'm not here to talk to you. And then trying to engage their son or daughter. And And then you see that there's a wee bit of a spark there, and all of a sudden they start to open up a wee bit, and it's lovely to see that. And what I will say is, in terms of learning as an old hand, I've learned from Luke, who's off camera right now. But Luke joined us as a degree level apprentice in September last year. I wasn't involved in the interview process. I still don't know what GCSEs or qualifications you have, Luke, but in a way it doesn't matter to me, because two things. The first week we went to a meeting with one of our major partners that we work with. And the person there was the deputy director, and we had a meeting with him. And then afterwards I looked around, and there was Luke chatting to the deputy director like he'd known him all his life. And it just made me so proud of you, Luke. And then also Catherine went over to see you at your first careers fair by yourself. And you know, you were shaking the hands of parents and young people. And again, I'm coming away going, I must do that. So look, you'll be glad to know I did that at the careers fair last time. But it's that sense of just be prepared to expect the unexpected in some way, you know. I know we use that phrase quite a bit. It's like, I just want to you want to be teachable right throughout your life. And I am just open to being taught. And it's lovely to see young people coming in and teaching us how to do things as well.
You'd asked earlier about, you know, what did the apprenticeship pathway open up for the organisation, and see what you're describing there. That's exactly it. When you were only used to bringing graduates in, there was a certain level of education, of understanding, and a certain rhythm that happened. When we introduced apprentices, you're bringing young people into your organisation who this is probably their first career step. Yeah, they might have had their Saturday job, but this is their first career. That's also them starting to educate themselves at exactly the same time. So they're asking different questions. They're challenging you in different ways. They are asking you weird and wonderful things that you really took for granted or that you'd forgotten about. And oh my goodness, what a learning experience it was for both parties, both us as the employers, the line managers, and the apprentice. So you're absolutely right about having that young person at a different stage in their life to what we had been used to and it really makes you think differently. And that challenge is brilliant because it keeps you on your toes. Yeah. It really does. Everybody's learning.
Everyone wins.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Well, as we come to the end of our conversation, I always ask, you know, I'm keen to know, I always ask this question, like, what would you say to your 16-year-old self?
Probably don't panic. You don't need everything figured out right now. That's the big thing now. Gosh, I'm saying that and thinking, is that what I say to my 16-year-old who literally is at home right now? So sometimes it's like...
Are you being kinder to your 16-year-old self, Ron?
I'm thinking, get out of bed and get off the Xbox. You know, so yes, as a parent, we're all saying those things, but I also have to, you know, maybe we need to say that to parents right now as well. You know, don't panic. The other thing is to remember, look how much society is changing and the speed of change. You know, the pathway that you choose now as a 16-year-old, the choices around your, you know, AS, A-levels, BTEC, you know, HNDs, HNCs, apprenticeship, all of those things and those choices that you make, in 5 years' time, there are going to be new opportunities that we haven't really even thought of. Think about where AI was 5 years ago to where we are now. You know, so that's just one example. So don't panic. Again, choose what's going to make you happy right now. Now, have to caveat, because I am a mother and a parent, you need to earn money because guess what? We all have rent and mortgage to pay and, you know, a car to keep on the road or whatever it is. So choose something that you know is going to get you to a place where you have employment and that you are going to be happy. But it's okay if it's not going to be your passion. Look, then that's when you sit down, take stock, and then move on. So don't panic. It will come. It will come.
Good.
I hope.
And our final question is: you look back over all the work that you've done, right from peeling potatoes in the cafe to working with companies now on people's strategies and things like that. Like for you, Joanne, what's so good about work?
Oh, crikey, lots of things. Because I guess when you get to this stage of life, you're thinking about, when could I retire? When could I take my foot off the gas a little? How do I want that to look? But so what do I enjoy about work? I enjoy the structure. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the rhythm that it brings to life. I think that's important. I love to be challenged and to be learning it still about myself. Never mind learning about others. So those things are really important. And then the other thing, and I guess it's the world that I've worked in for such a long time, seeing other people thrive. I'm HR, the people team, we only exist if there's a need, and to me, I like to sit on the side of the people agenda where it's about bringing out the best in people, helping them flourish and thrive. And let's finish on apprentices, if you like. 2016, 2017 is when we were bringing in the first apprentices into the construction company. And to watch those folk as they've gone through that, come out the other side, their degree, their master's apprenticeship, and sitting in places in the organisation that they are and absolutely thriving. And you might meet them, out socially or on a networking event, and they say, do you remember the day? Do you remember when you brought us in? Do you remember when you had to bring us in and tell us off? Do you remember when you did this? And you look back and you think, yeah, I've helped and I've contributed. That, you do get a buzz out of that. So yeah, that's the bit I love about work too.
Brilliant. And that's our hope through this podcast for young people and people choosing next step in their career, that they'll have exactly that same answer, that they'll know that they can make a difference in the lives of others through whatever career journey they take. Joanne, that's I always really enjoy our chats, and we've had many of them over 10 years. I'm just glad that in a way we've been able to share with someone else, because I've learned so much from you, and I just hope that those that are listening today will have benefited from that. I know they will have, and I look forward to seeing what you do next as well.
No problem. Thank you very much, Richard. Thanks for the opportunity. Okay, good luck, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Workplus. If today's story gave you fresh perspective or helped you rethink what's possible, leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform or hit like and subscribe. It really does make a big difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to help guide the next generation, visit workplus.app. Until next time.